So your life just fell apart, or it's altered in some way, and it feels like it's completely just the very foundation that you were standing on or that you were living is completely shattered, and everything that you knew or thought you knew or believed is completely gone or eh, just wiped clean. Perhaps it's grief, or it's a breakup, or a job loss, or a financial crisis, or a health scare or diagnosis. It might even be something in you, like you've changed, and you know that if you were to make a move or you were to do something, that it will completely alter or disrupt your life. Either way, wherever you find yourself, whether you're seeking that change or life has just changed you and thrown you for a loop, you're in what I call the disruption phase, because it's exactly that. And I say phase not to mean like, oh, it's just a phase and get over it, meaning it is a very specific phase and season of your life that you have been thrust in. And I know I've been there too many times in my life, and it can feel disorienting. It can feel unsettling, it can feel painful, uncomfortable, and you're questioning everything, who you are, what you want, where you go, and there's no end in sight because you are just in a life altering change and shift in your life. And I know that it feels like it's going to last forever and there's no way out. But if anything that I hope this video can provide is that it is not forever. And I know that you likely feel very alone in it, but you don't have to walk it alone. And that's why I want to give you the tools and resources. And we're going to go through in depth what this phase is, what it might need from you, and the tools and resources that might help you. So before I do that, I just want to quickly say and introduce myself. My name is Destiny Rael. I'm a trauma informed life and grief coach. And not only have I been through this phase and many phases that we're going to be talking about in this series, but I walk through life phases with all of my clients. This is what I do. I help people navigate their way through life and loss and everything in between, and really navigating through that messy, disorienting space. And what we're doing in this video, and actually it's a part of a 5-part series where I'm walking you through what I call and I'm looking for it, I'm like, where is it? The destiny map. And it's my framework that I use to help just give us a breakdown of the different seasons that we go through in our life through change and transformation. And one of the most painful ones, one of the most life altering ones, is this phase, the disruption phase. And so that's what we're going to walk through today. And if anything, so you know that you don't have to walk it alone, and that I'm here with you and I want to support you in it and help ground you in what might be inviting you to the next phase of your life. So let's dive in. The disruption phase. So, what is it? Let's talk about really what this phase is and what it looks and feels like. Now, you might already be thinking, well, I'm living it right now and I know what it feels like. And you likely do. I want to help name and acknowledge it at the very least so you can feel validated, supported. And sometimes it's nice to have that mirrored back and reflected back so we can feel less alone and know that, okay, I'm not crazy here. This is what I feel. This is exactly what I'm going through. And so that's what I want to help name. So, what you might be feeling is numb, you know, anxious, afraid. When you're in the disruption phase, it completely, can bring you to your knees, turn yourself inside out. And so you don't recognize yourself anymore. You don't know who you are. There's a lot more questions that you thought you had the answers to, and now you don't know the answers, or you don't know, um, perhaps everything that you thought you believed, or the path that you were on is no longer. So it can leave you feeling really confused. It can leave you feeling scared and afraid. It can leave you feeling uncomfortable. It can leave you feeling overwhelmed by emotion. But maybe the next day you're completely numb and disconnected from yourself and from other people. You might find yourself no longer interested in things that you used to be interested in or that brought you joy. You might find yourself reaching for things that you never thought you would in your life. It's like there's this internal change and also this external change that really oftentimes doesn't even make sense because you don't recognize yourself. I remember when my brother passed away, and that is one of the hugest disruptions in my life, the biggest loss, and brought me to my knees upside down. Not even to my knees. I felt like I just everything shattered and I was just floating with no end in sight. And I know that I'm not alone in that feeling. And that's another way, the disruption feeling. But I remember when that happened and I was trying to, why I was putting on makeup, I have no idea. I don't know where I was going right in those raw stages. And I remember putting on makeup and then I just kept wiping it off, like aggressively trying to get it off my face, and I would try it again and I was aggressively taking it off. And I just remember standing in the mirror, and just days before I was putting on the same makeup colors, the same techniques, the same whatever I was doing that worked before, and it was not. And I just threw my makeup bag at the mirror, and I'm getting emotional in sharing this because it was, I didn't recognize myself even with those external efforts and doing things that I was doing days and years before, but I wasn't the same. My no amount of makeup, no amount of style or hair or whatever, and none of that was going to change that. So you might find yourself in something similar where you're doing the same things, but you're not the same and it doesn't feel the same. You might be feeling like you're walking through life, just going through the motions of life, and you're able, somehow you made it to work, or you made it, showed up wherever you needed to be, but you're really disconnected from it. And so those are just one of many ways, or not one, several of many ways that this phase may feel or look like to you. But again, I imagine that there's many things that I haven't mentioned, and in fact, I would love to hear from you if you're, wanting to add to your experience. I would love to know in the comments, what has this phase, if you are feeling you're in the disruption phase, what has that felt like for you? What has been your experience? What are you going through right now? And let me know. But what I do want you to know is, while it can feel these things and it does look completely different, I promise you it is not forever. And I know that it can feel that way. I know that we find ourselves feeling just foggy and hopeless, and there's no end in sight. And we feel like we're never going to be the same. We're never going to be ourselves again. And while sometimes we cannot go back, we are moving forward. And that's what this phase is really initiating us to do. And you becoming that person that is being evolving through this space and this phase. And that's what we're going to walk through next. But if anything, I hope if you're still with me, and I encourage you to stay with me because I'm going to give you some tools and resources, but I want you to know that I know it hurts. I know it's uncomfortable, but it will not last forever. And I want to be here and support you along the way. So let's step into what this phase might be needing and asking of you. And let me just tell you, our society is not really built up to support this phase. We celebrate overcoming, we celebrate resilience, we celebrate, being strong and getting through and bouncing back, and we applaud that. And there's nothing wrong with that, because there oftentimes when we've gone through hell and back, there's something to say about moving through that and being on the other side. And you will get to that other side. But really, when you're in this phase, the last thing it needs is to be rushed. It is not about bouncing back or having a 5-step plan or getting from A to Z. Oftentimes, this phase, the disruption phases, doesn't even have a timeline. It doesn't have a roadmap. It's really initiating you forward. It's an invitation, if you will, to a part of your new beginning in life, even if you didn't want it, even if it's not something that you even asked for. It's inviting you forward. And that way forward might be messy, it might be twisting and turning and going in circles, but you are moving forward. But you really need that space and that time to move through it. So it's not about moving on, it's about moving through. And when you do, That's where your wisdom is. That's where your resilience is. That's where your strength ends up really building from. That's where the healing is. That's where we start to, ground ourselves again and find our footing when we actually allow ourselves to move through it. And that's exactly what this phase needs from you. It needs the time, it needs the space, and it needs you. It needs your presence. So I want to give you some specific things that, while it might need from you, also want to talk about what you might need in this phase. And the first thing is space. You need space. You need emotional space, you need physical space, you need spiritual space. You need space to just be where you're at, and to allow yourself and give yourself permission to be where you're at, not to try to get to the light or to, again, get to the other side or bounce back, but to just be and to be present in that. So, giving yourself that emotional space to process, to feel, to get real, to get honest. That's what you need in this space. And that doesn't have a timeline. So I really want to encourage that you give yourself the space that it needs, the presence that it needs. And, while when you do that, you're actually in it. And that's when we start opening, because the disruption phase does just that. It cracks you open. It's literally a rupture in yourself and in your life. And so when we are in that rupture, then we can start moving through the phases of rebuilding. And speaking of, that's the final phase in this series. So you will get there, but let's stay present in this phase of disruption. So, four things that you might need that might help you when you're in this phase. And I already mentioned that the space and the processing and, just giving yourself permission to be where you're at. The second thing you might need is support. You're going to need support. And that might look like therapy. That might look like coaching. And, someone that specializes specifically in grief or trauma. That I actually do. That's what I do. I'm a trauma informed life and grief coach. And so I offer one on one support. And if that's of interest, I would be honored to support you. And I'll leave that info at the end. Um, but some type of that one on one support where you really have the space and the time and the support to really work through and be present in your experience. Also, support groups. Cannot emphasize enough the value of just having a group or a community that you can belong to, that are your peers that are going through something similar. I'm a grief support leader, and I know firsthand when I've worked with, groups and people in the grief space, just the value that they can say, yeah, me too, I'm going through something similar. And you feel less alone, you feel heard, you feel understood, you feel valued and validated. And also, it's just you have that collective shared experience. So really want to encourage that. That might be a powerful and a really, great resource for you to consider. And even if it's not a structured support group, perhaps just a community, whether it's your church or something local around whatever you're struggling with and what you need support in. And so reaching for your local community or your church, like I said, or spiritual center or circle that might offer support and healing modalities and ways in which you can come together with other people to be in the space together. Cannot recommend it enough. So, yes, the third thing that you might need in this space is gentleness and care. I know that that might sound cliche, but truly, we can be so hard on ourselves, especially when we do have the external world pulling us. You might have other responsibilities, or if you're a mom or a parent that you have to show up, you have to feed your kids, you have to go to work, you have to do these things. And we can really bypass our own experience and we can be really harsh, or life can feel like it's being harsh. So I really encourage that you are just kind and gentle and compassionate, because you've been through a lot. You're going through a lot. And I imagine, and I use this example often, but if you had a child that is hurting, you likely would care and be there and be attentive and support them and nurture and love. That's what you need. You need that exact nurturing and care and love and compassion. So I want to encourage you that you give yourself that gentleness and that kindness to yourself while you're in this space. Well, all the time, no matter what phase you're in, but definitely when you're in the disruption phase. And lastly, but not limited, but lastly, is also rest. Yes, rest. You need rest. Even if you are trying to be busy, or again, if you are even have to be back in your world right now and have to show up and, for your obligations and your responsibilities, your grief or your process or the things that you're working through is running in the background. Your mind and cognitive, your spirit, your body, your physical body, because it's exhausting. When you're in the disruption phase, it is completely disorienting and exhausting, and you're drained and it's depleting, so you need rest. So it's okay if you need to sleep a little bit longer, or if you need to arrange that you go to bed earlier, or even if you just are tired and you are recognizing that you need more rest. If your brain needs a rest from the digital life right now, or even your social media time. It's one of the most common things that comes up when I work with clients, is just how overwhelmed and just taxed they're feeling in their brain, because we have so many things coming at us. Even if we're trying to find, self-development or healing tools, even that can feel overwhelming because there's so much that's coming towards us. I mean, you look up one thing and, for support, and you've got so many things. Even this video, I mean, you might need to pause it and come back to it, and that's okay. Trust yourself and your body and your mind and your spirit, but give yourself that rest and come back to something. And you can give yourself that pause and revisit something, and that way you can be more present in it. So, the four things that I know that you're likely going to need, even though there's going to be so much more, is just the space and the presence, giving yourself that support or reaching for support, whatever that may look like for you, giving yourself the gentleness and the compassion and the kindness and the love. And then also four is rest, just good old fashioned rest. I know that there's likely many other things, and I'd love to hear from you and, really have that dialogue. So let me know, what is it that you feel that you need? What kind of support would be helpful for you in this time, in this disruption phase? Even if it's something I've already mentioned, or if there's something else, I'd love to hear from you. And before I get to the coaching tools, I'm going to give you three things that you can walk away today that you can start putting into practice, and hopefully will help ground you and, give you a little bit of anchoring to help you in this and support you in this process. I want to offer you a gentle reframe. I know that, and I've already mentioned this, but I know that when we're in the disruption phase, it can feel almost sometimes even like a punishment, or it can feel like, why me, or why is this happening? And it's just overwhelming, especially if it's compounded, especially if you are in the space where, you're dealing with multiple challenges, and it can be just so overwhelming. And I want to encourage that when we are in this phase, and I'm borrowing from one of my favorite authors, Thomas More, and he has an amazing book called Dark Nights of the Soul. And I'll actually leave that in the notes as well, because it changed my life. But his real teaching is that these times when we're in this disruption or in these challenges or life transitions, is it really is exactly that. It is a transitional period of our life, and it may not be fair, it may not be what we want, we might resist it, but it is moving us whether we want to or not. And again, that does not mean it's not painful and that we don't carry some of that pain with us. But when we can release and allow and be present in it, that is exactly what this space is inviting us to. So the reframe is that, this space, there is some value in this space. And I'm very, very gentle. And I want to be very sensitive when I say this, because I've already shared about my brother and my own grief. This is not meant to say, oh, thank goodness this happened because look at me now, or thank goodness. It's not meant to dismiss or bypass. It's really to be in the presence that, yes, this thing has happened and my life has been disrupted, and I am hurting and I don't like it, but here I am. And so now what how is this shaping me? How is this organizing me in my life? How is this inviting me forward? What is this initiating in me? And oftentimes that's exactly what's happening, is this disruption is really cracking us open. It's breaking us open for a new version of ourselves. And that's really where we find our truth, and we find what matters to us. We find, really our true essence in that process, and even new versions of ourselves, parts of yourself you never even knew existed, because this space requires so much from you. And that's where the strength comes in. That's where the resilience comes in. That's where the wisdom and the depth, and even the um, ability and the capacity to hold so much more than you ever thought possible. And then through that, we find the meaning again, and we can find purpose, and we can find even hope. And I'm a living testimony of that. And I've seen it too many times with the clients and even friends and family that have gone through these sometimes even tragic moments in our life, that on the other side is the light, and it is possible. And so this is not meant to dismiss or bypass or to discredit or even dilute the disruption phase, but it's also really, I wanted to give you a reframe that there is a opportunity here and an opening that's happening, and you don't have to do that alone. So let's talk about some coaching tools and some support that I can give you right now. And I think I mentioned, but I do have some notes because I want to give you some things specifically to do. So first and foremost is get out a piece of paper or a journal. The first thing that we want to do is you want to name what your experience is. And I find journaling one of the most powerful tools, whether it's through breakdown or breakthroughs, because that's where our wisdom can be, and our clarity and our truth and our answers. And we oftentimes can access so much inner wisdom and truth in ourselves when we do journal. So even if you don't like writing, I do encourage, and the very least, you can always voice these to yourself, voice memo. But I'm going to put some journal prompts up on the screen, and I just encourage you to follow the prompts and write freely. No editing, no grammar, just allow your heart to speak. If you have your own journal, or if you have a piece of paper, that's fine. If you need a journal, I do actually have a journal myself that I created. It's called my Destiny Journal. It has 120 prompts and then blank pages that you can just allow your heart to take over. And so just know, I'll put that in the notes below, but it also comes in 3 different covers. So I'll put that below, but whether it's my journal or another journal or a piece of paper, I want you to get that out. Even if you have to pause the screen right now, I'm going to give you some journal prompts. So first thing you want to ask yourself is, right now I feel. And when you just allow yourself to be present with what you're feeling, it likely is a lot of things at once, but just name it. Just give voice to it. Just give yourself permission to feel what you're feeling. So, right now, I feel. The second journal prompt: if my emotions were a weather report, what kind of day would it be? Number 3, I find myself avoiding and trying to escape. And this is a powerful question because, especially in the disruption phase, there's a lot we're avoiding. And that's okay. This is not to judge ourselves. This is not to blame. In fact, give yourself permission because it's likely painful. That's why we're avoiding it. But just giving yourself that truth and that opportunity to be present with where you're at. Encourage you to be honest when you answer that question. But I find myself avoiding and trying to escape. Number 4, what am I afraid will happen if I fall apart? And then number 5, where do I feel this most in my body? And this is a really important question because oftentimes we store so much in our bodies. We store our emotions and our thoughts, and even if we think we're cognitively moving forward and we're showing up in our lives, our body remembers and it is holding on. So just to name and really tune into that part of our body can be really powerful. And even taking that insight and information from once you identify where it is in your body, and then actually working with that part of the body is also really powerful way to support yourself in this. And that's for another video, another time, of just some of those somatic tools, but really just naming where you feel your emotions and your feelings in your body. So, number two, the next tool, and again, you might have to rewind yourself. You probably do want to rewind yourself. Rewind this video, or pause it, because this is a separate tool. So, this is really about naming what you can control and what you cannot control. So I'd love for you to get a piece of paper, or you can also use a journal. But if you want to get a piece of paper and actually fold it in half, so you can have like a clear distinction of the columns. And the first column, you're going to actually write things not within my control. Second column, things within my control. And I want you to write, obviously, on the one column, things that are not within your control, all the things that are not within your control right now. And when you're done with that, I want you to write on the other column all the things that are within your control. And, you know, I'll give you an example, or maybe a few, just to kind of stir that up. Even if you are dealing with a significant loss in your life, maybe a breakup, or someone has left the situation, or even has passed away and is no longer here, that is not within your control, and that hurts. And that doesn't mean you deny that, and you don't again get the support and resources to move through the pain of that, but that's not within your control. So when, even if you write there, I'm not within my control is that he left, or he's no longer here, or she has ended this relationship. That is not within the control. But what you are in control of is getting the support that you need in your grief, or you are in control with how you honor that person in your life, or you are in control of the support and resources that you decide to bring in to help you through this time. Another example might be, let's say you've lost your job, or you just found out you don't have any income coming, and maybe you've tried everything. You're putting resumes out, you're making the calls, you're doing all the right things. So you're trying all these things, and yet you haven't heard anything, or you just, nothing is happening. So those are things that are not within your control. Not able to control your boss's decision, or not being able to control when and how you will hear from some of these leads or resources that you've attempted and tried to in getting your job and getting a new job. But you can, and what is within your control, how you show up in your day, how you utilize your time, and how you um, even show up in your mindset. What you're telling yourself about that, what you're, you have the control to say, I'm never going to get a job again, I'm going to be broke, I don't know how I'm going to pay my bills. Or you can control your mindset that, okay, the right opportunity is going to come for me, I'm going to continue showing up, I'm going to update my resume, or I might reach out to someone and get more skills or educate myself. Those are things that are within your control. And the list goes on. And what this does, and why this exercise is really important, is that oftentimes when we are in the disruption phase, we're in survival mode. We are ruminating, we're trying to control things, we're trying to fix things, we're trying to find solution, we're trying to make what happen not happen. And again, I understand and have been there, and it really does evoke that panic and trying to control things. And when we can name the things that aren't with our control, but also when we can shift the focus, okay, what can I control in this moment? What can I do? And again, it's not even so much about doing, but sometimes even just giving ourselves permission to be. And even if it's, I can take my dog out for a walk, or I can make sure I eat healthy foods today so my body's nourished. There are things within your control that can help ground you and shift that focus so things don't feel so out of place and so disorienting. So, really encourage you to put that exercise in um, practice. And also feel free to let me know in the comments if that's helpful too, and just list that out. And then third thing is really finding an anchoring practice. And this is really, really important, especially again when we're in survival mode and we're feeling that we don't have, even really control over a lot of the things within our environment. And I know we just talked about that in the things we can control, but where this is slightly different is finding an anchoring, grounding practice that you are going to implement in your day to day life. So that might look like, 5 minutes of journaling every morning, or going on a morning walk for 10 minutes. Or it might be calling a friend and seeing if you can arrange having a 10-minute coffee talk with a trusted friend. Or it might be taking a nightly bath with your herbal tea every night at 10 o'clock, whatever it may be. But when you can give yourself a tiny micro practice or micro ritual that can ground you, that is something that you may not know anything else that's happening or what's going on, but you do know that. You do know that at 8 a.m., you're going to journal for 5 minutes. You do know that at 10 o'clock, you're going to take that bath, or whatever you find that is supportive and helpful for you, that helps you anchor. So, cannot emphasize enough how powerful and meaningful this practice is to really implement in your life, that you can give yourself some things to ground and to, hang on to. So I hope these were powerful or um, impactful and helpful, just to so you can walk away. If anything, I hope that you got from this video is just that while yes, I know this is often downright unbearable at times, that you do have some resources and support, and you don't have to do this alone. And I hope that you don't. I hope you reach out for the support. I know that this disruption phase is life altering, and I know it's painful and hard, but you will get and move through to the other side. And I want to help support you in that. So, three things that you can get started. Obviously, the tools that I mentioned. If you want, I'm assuming that by here, if you're here and you've been here this long, that you're likely in the disruption phase, and you know that and already are have that certainty. But you can take the Destiny Map quiz, because it's going to walk you through the five cycles of transformation, and it just helps you because there's just five questions, I believe. I don't even remember how many questions I have, but I think it's just five questions that will help you determine what phase you're in. And then I'm also walking through all those phases in this series. So I hope that you will take that quiz. Again, if you're needing a journal, I've got that as well that I will leave in the notes. And then lastly, if you are looking for support, or especially one on one, I'm here for you. I'd love to support you. So I will leave that link, and feel free to reach out to me and schedule a free call with me, and we can talk about how I might be able to support you in this space and in this phase of your life. In the meantime, I will see you in the next video, where we are going to be talking about the reflection phase. And this is oftentimes the phase that comes after disruption, but sometimes we just find ourselves reflecting and deepening and more in curiosity of our lives, and rediscovering things that matter to us, and reorienting our lives and remembering parts of ourselves. So it's a really powerful phase. So I will see you in the next video, and thank you, thank you, thank you so much for being here. All right.